So we are at Columbia Bottom Conservation Area along the northeast point of the conservation area, which is interesting because it sits right at the confluence of the Missouri and Mississippi rivers. As a matter of fact, if you kind of look, you can see sort of a textural kind of difference between the two rivers as they meet. One of them is choppier and one of them is a little bit kind of smoother. You can see that gradient. That point, by the way, off in the distance there that juts out, that's the Ted and Pat Jones Confluence Point State Park that is technically in St. Charles County. You can access that one. It is in the West Alton area. Where we're standing is in St. Louis County. You can reach this by going 270, getting off and heading north on Riverview Drive for a few miles until you reach the Columbia Bottom Conservation Area entrance. It's mostly gravel road to get here. You have to weave your way to the northeast quadrant of the conservation area. It's a very large conservation area. The interesting part of this area, and you can maybe kind of tell from the video, is this particular confluence point was severely damaged by flooding back in 2019, and it hasn't really been fully repaired. If you see me, I'll walk up here kind of towards the edge. There used to be kind of like guardrail kinds of things that were here on the edge. They're gone. This place has been kind of stripped down just to the platform. And the other consideration is to get here, you used to be able to drive really close, park, and then walk over to this confluence point. But because of flood damage, you can't do that. You actually have to park about a mile away in a gravel lot, and then you have to hoof it through some dilapidated pavement that used to be for cars and now is closed off to vehicle traffic. But if you're willing to do that, it will take you out to this spot where you can get a really nice view of the confluence. Now, for my money, there are other places you can look. I might as well mention that down that way is the confluence point that can be found near Camp Du Bois, Lewis and Clark Museum in Hartford, Illinois. We actually have another video on our YouTube channel where we recorded from that spot. In addition, yeah, you can kind of see it. I'm going to zoom in just a little bit so you can get an eye on it. It's about as close as I can get. Yeah, so right over there, you can kind of make that part out. It is not my favorite location because it's not as close to the confluence. You're a little bit more of a distance away. My favorite point actually for the confluence is Ted and Pat Jones, which you can see right there. It is lovely. You can get right down. I mean, you can literally stick one foot in the Missouri and one foot in the Mississippi if you wanted to. The downside to that park is it actually takes a long time to get to. It's kind of buried several miles away from 67 that runs up into Alton. So you have to drive for, I think, a good 15 minutes from 67 just to get to the entrance to that park. So it's more remote. There's a nice payoff, but it's more remote. Columbia Bottom is kind of somewhere in between. It's a little bit more accessible where we're standing here. Driving here is not difficult, by way of Riverview Drive, but then the downside, of course, is that you have to park some distance away, a mile away or so from this spot, and then walk here. That said, if you're looking to see the Missouri and Mississippi confluence, and we have seen it from multiple locations, I recommend maybe looking at all of them if you get a chance to. But this one is kind of an interesting bucket list one, as much because of the fact that it's also a bit of a remnant of flood damage. I mean, it kind of lends a sort of haunting air to it, but it also affords a really pretty view in and of its own, in a kind of its own right. So again, this is Columbia Bottom Conservation Area, the confluence point, which you park at a gravel road about a mile away, and then you kind of hike here.